In 1978, I was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor and given 3 months to live. And at that time, I started on a journey of trying to figure out how to get well. Well, I left medicine. I was studying to be a neurosurgeon and knew that the types of therapy there were not there for me to get better. So I went on this long journey. To make a long story short, I am living proof that the USDA food pyramid makes you fat, because I was almost 95 pounds heavier. And I was eating my 3 to 4 cups of brown rice. I was carrying my kitchen with me. I was grinding all my own grains. I was making my own quart of fresh carrot juice every day. And I was teaching nutrition and getting very, very angry at myself because I looked like a fat cow. And I'm going to the different, I have a huge library. My library is about as big as this room. And I saw these books on the zone, and I got very angry. I said, yeah, there's T zone, B zone, N zone, no, there's zone book. There's no way I'm going to buy this book. And I was literally on my way to develop a natural fin-fin because I formulate supplements. And I was trying to figure out a way to do that when this book just reached out and grabbed my arm. And so I thought, I'll take it home and read it. But I read the cover, and I threw the book down. And so I would pick it up every so often and said, gee, this makes sense, but I'm not giving up my brown rice. Now, in my research, I knew that my patients needed protein and vegetables, but I was one of those people that was very right about how very wrong I was. And I was really deciding that carbohydrates were the way because everyone else must be right. I can't be the only one that's saying protein and vegetables. And so one of my patients came into the office and said, Dr. Espy, what do you think about this book, The Zone? And whether I believe in something or not, I believe in integrity of telling my patients the truth about what I see instead of my own opinion. So I said to her, I'm in the middle of reading the book. I didn't tell her I threw it down. But I said, I'm in the middle of reading the book, and as soon as I get done, I'll give you an honest evaluation of it. She said, well, Dr. Sears is in town. I said, when? Friday night. It's the only weekend that I was not traveling. So I found out where he was, and I brought my briefcase of research to disprove this man. Because I had done the research to prove that macrobiotics was protein deficient. We had done the research to show that who's the guy with no oils? No. The Pritikin actually helps create leukemia by the low fatty acids. We also showed how the Atkins diet, we did the laboratory research to show the Atkins diet did a lot of the breakdown of muscle mass. So I brought all my stuff in to show that Barry was wrong, and I sat in the second row, and I was on the edge of my seat. And I had my research there, and about 20 minutes into the lecture, I very nicely slid my briefcase underneath the chair, and I knew that he was right and I was very wrong. And at the end of the seminar, I threw my stuff into the garbage and walked out. It threw away 30 years of research because it was wrong. And it was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to my life. I went back to my practice and I lost 20% of my patients because I called every single patient up and I said, I have been teaching you wrong. I want to teach you how to do it right. And some of them refused to follow. And I thought, well, that's their free choice. But I at least feel now I'm in integrity. I can teach people how to eat right. And those of you who question whether or not Barry's telling the truth, try it really. Don't come up and tell me, I tried it for one meal. Tell me what you're eating. Be in integrity. Realize the value of who you are, that everything you put in your mouth says how much you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you'll put junk in there. You'll fool around. You'll go up and down. Barry is very kind. He says you're only one meal away. But every meal could be the last meal because that could be the meal that you set yourself up for disease. And I was there for 51 years. There's no way I'm going to get out of the zone. Because we all know who he is and what he does. The final gentleman on the panel is Eric Friedland, and he's also one of the medical directors of our company. Eric?
My story isn't quite as impressive and dramatic as Renee's, but about 8 years ago, actually, I was introduced to Barry's technology by an article that I read, and I don't even really recall even where I read it. I think it was in a sports magazine. And I tried the bars, I tried the technology, and I thought it was very impressive. Although it was one of his first generations of his bars, his book hadn't come out yet. And he actually got quite constipated, and I thought twice about it for a while. Until about 4 years later, when I was at Boston Marathon Expo, and there was someone there actually talking a little bit about some of this technology, and I actually had the good fortune of happening to move to Marblehead, and while I was going to my cable TV place, drove by Barry's office and recognized the sign and went in and explained, and I was all excited and explained to him that who I was and how I had tried this technology years ago. And I had already been on probably every diet that you can name I tried, and I was actually very much a proponent of the Pritikin program, high carbohydrate, low fat, low protein, and I thought, of course, that's the way to do it. And it worked for me when I exercised like crazy, because what I didn't realize was I was offsetting the bad effects of the carbohydrates with the exercise. And so as I got a little bit more busy and a little bit less opportunity to exercise as much, I started gaining weight. And I tried to go back to that old way of eating high carbohydrates and low fat, and thought, okay, that'll work again. But as I got to be further and further away from 30, it didn't work, and I put on 20 pounds. Well, at the time when I met Barry, I was an attending physician in emergency medicine on the faculty at Boston University School of Medicine. I'd been working a lot of crazy night shifts and off-hour shifts, and I had already gained 20 pounds. And I spoke with Barry, and I was all excited about the technology. And Barry explained to me that what to do about the Zone Nutrition program, and I began to follow it. And I quickly almost gave him a bill because my clothes decreased in my pant size about 3 sizes, and I lost 20 pounds. And I was very excited about it. I had more energy. Throughout the nights was one of my biggest problems, because trying to stay awake on night shifts, going from nights and days and evenings, was very difficult. And Barry gave me a program to use that was very helpful in terms of when to eat and how to eat and which actually you all know now, but at the time there was no book that I could read. Well, eventually, soon after, the book did come out, and I kept hanging around like the office, and finally Barry was nice enough to give me a job. So, but I'm very fortunate, and I'd like you to know that even since what you're getting is even just a small, even though it's incredibly refined based on a lot of Barry's work since the books came out, and based on a lot of work that Dr. Call's done as well, there's been even more science to substantiate many, if not every one of the principles that Barry's been working on. And one of my jobs as an architect is actually based on trying to substantiate the science. I mean, we've come a long way. And so what we're here for you now is to be able to hopefully address some of those questions that you might have that maybe haven't been answered yet.
Okay, what we've done is we have quite a pile of questions here, and what we've done is try to categorize them so that they're questions that will hopefully be answered and pertain to most of you here. It might be something that you want to just keep in the back of your mind. If you notice some change in the future, you might realize you might have to make a change in your eating habit or your blocks, or add fat or decrease fat or add carbohydrates. It is going to be impossible for us to answer every single question here in the time frame that we have this afternoon. So Barry's kind of prioritized certain questions that he feels that are very important. Then what we're going to do is Lynn Sears, when we get home, Lynn Sears, or the doctors are going to answer the questions, and Lynn will be putting up a page on the web as part of our Zone site that will answer these questions. And so if we don't get to one of your questions, or each and every question, we apologize, but it's just impossible. And we have picked out the most important questions that Barry feels right now that you'll all benefit from. So I'll start with the first question, and you can fight amongst yourselves who's going to answer it. The first question is, I've been on the program for 3 months and lost 25 pounds, but in the last month my hair has gotten very dry and brittle. Is it because of weight loss and fat loss?
Let me take this one first, because this will be explained in greater detail on Friday in terms of Zone science. The fact is that we talk about, the use of the fish oils, because what that person was seeing was a buildup of arachidonic acid. We'll talk about this very briefly today. And what you're seeing is, as he builds this arachidonic acid, that unless we have adequate levels of these fish oils in the diet, they can start to give rise to a slight overproduction of attacosanoids. And one of the first signs is, again, brittleness of hair and loss of hair, and also constipation. And that's why in each of your kits that you got, we give you fish oil capsules, the same fish oil capsules we gave to our diabetic patients, because that amount of fish oil will alleviate any potential buildup of arachidonic acid and all those effects we just talked about. The brittle hair, especially the constipation, will dissipate within a matter of days. So again, the program is working, but again, we're just building up a little too much of arachidonic acid. We need the more omega-3 fatty acids in the diet.
The next question probably will be answered very similar to that. What is the relationship of fish oil to bleeding or bruising? Since using the fish oil, I have frequent bruising.
I think that person has something. First of all, as you age, I hate to tell you this, your dermis, your skin gets thin. And the elder people in this audience can testify. You bruise much more easily. It's a very complicated process. Remember, if you don't have adequate vitamin C in your diet, you get skin that easily breaks. Your mucosal membranes will bleed very easy. It's a precondition to scurvy. That's what scurvy was, the breakdown of your skin. So as you age, make sure you're getting enough vitamin C. Make sure you're getting enough zinc, which is very important for the integrity of the skin. Now, with the fish oils, you have to take 20 grams a day to equal the effect of about an aspirin, right? So studies of up to 20 grams a day of fish oil doesn't even equal the strength of one aspirin as far as thinning, as patients call it, thinning their blood. So just because you're bruising, don't blame it necessarily on the fish oil capsules. It's a big problem in the elderly. If you overbathe, if you take too many showers with very hot water, you strip the protective oils off your skin, the skin can get very dry. That's the most common cause of itching and injury to the skin as you age. So don't over shower. Americans are fastidious. They shower every day, but we're not digging ditches anymore. We shower now more out of habit than because we're really truly dirty. And as we age, that can be quite deleterious to your skin because you're stripping off all the oils. So bruisability is probably not related to the fish oils because you're only taking 6 a day, and the studies have used 20 a day. So that's my answer.
It's also related to rutin. Rutin is more than vitamin C going to help bruising. So I would have you put rutin into the diet. Rutin, R-U-T-I-N.
Rutin, again, and also bioflavonoids. This is a key component. So again, where do you get bioflavonoids? Fruits and vegetables. So again, you want to basically make sure that you find them primarily in the inner surface on what you call the rind. So that, from the standpoint when you're peeling off the fruit, don't basically peel off all of the excess outer surface, because that's where these are really concentrated. So a very easy way of getting adequate levels of these bioflavonoids, which are important in maintaining the integrity of the capillary bed.
The question seemed to imply that the individual who wrote the question, since they've been on the program, have noticed some changes. And so I think what Paul was alluding to is that fish oil does have an effect in the clotting mechanisms and does affect the stickiness of platelets, which is what first forms combine and stick together when you first cut yourself. And that's a very good, now, when Barry talked about good and bad icosanoids and how you have to have a balance. If we didn't have any platelets, that wouldn't be good. If we have too many that stick too fast, that's not good either because that clots our blood and makes us more prone to have heart attacks and things like that. So one of the beneficial effects of the fish oil is that it actually causes the plates to be less sticky. Now, Paul's correct that it takes a much greater dose of fish oil in most people to cause the blood thinning or the less stickiness that you notice. But there is an individual variation too, just as in the zone diet, when Barry put the 0.6 to 1 in terms of the ratio of protein to carbohydrate, there is a little bit of individual variation. It's not necessarily that one size fits all, and that's why he talked about making slight adjustments. So in people who may be prone for many other reasons to have bruising, and some people are for different reasons, then it's possible that maybe some of the effects of the fish oil at a higher dose, maybe you're taking too much. But for the majority of people, the overwhelming majority, it's not a problem. But one of the caveat is that if you notice any significant changes, such as severe bruising or whatever, you always should consult with a physician as well, just to make sure that there's not other things that could be going on. Perhaps there's other health problems that may have been existing before you actually started the program or whatever. But it's very unlikely that the program itself is causing any deleterious effects on clotting.
There's another thing to remember is that when you first start eating healthy, what your body's going to do is it's going to start getting rid of what's inside. And some of you were on such a bad diet before. What I've noticed in my patients is that they start showing the underlying disease that was there, and it starts coming up to the surface. Don't ever think that because you were sick 20 years ago that your body still doesn't have that potential. You think you're better. But what it did, it went into adaptation. So now it starts getting more centered, and your body starts bringing to the surface things that have a problem. So possibly, if we looked at everything that person is eating, we're going to see there's some little things need to be tweaked. Maybe you're eating more of one type of carbohydrate rather than another. You may be zoning on unfavorables. Maybe your body's starting to say, I really have a circulatory problem that I need help with. Now it's going to show up. Don't think that because you're in the zone, everything goes away. Things come up to be dealt with.
Okay, the next question, this person has been on the zone since June of 1996.